Welcome to Beyond Rockets. Hope you're having a great day. My name is Clark Dunn and I'm your host. Get ready to enjoy some awesome conversations from Huntsville locals about cool work they are doing right here in the Rocket City. You can connect with us on social media at Beyond Rockets, and if you're interested in doing a podcast yourself, I'd love to hear from you. You can visit my website, beyondrockets.com today, or connect with me on LinkedIn at Clark Dunn. Sit back and enjoy this episode of Beyond Rockets.
Everything I liked except the way she talked to me every day.
This episode is sponsored by Relogic Research. Relogic is an engineering, aerospace, and technology company dedicated to solving our nation's toughest defense problems while investing in the bright minds of Huntsville. Relogic is excited to be a part of the innovation and continued growth of the Huntsville community. Visit their website today to see what they are excited about at relogicresearch.com, and all of this information will be in the episode notes.
This is Chandler Wicks, founder and CEO of Relogic Research. We're very excited to partner with Beyond Rockets and further support of their already outstanding contribution to the Huntsville community.
This episode is shot and produced by Barding Glass. Barding Glass is a creative studio providing photography and videography services here in Huntsville, Alabama. They specialize in creating a stunning photography and videography that brings your vision to life. From business branding to personal milestones, they are here to capture what matters most to you with an approach that's professional, fun, and true to your story. Whether you're looking to showcase your team, highlight your product, or share your unique process, they work closely with you to create content that connects with your audience and leaves a lasting impression. Let them help bring your vision to life in a way that's true to your brand. You can find out more about Barding Glass by visiting their website, bardingglass.com, and all this information will be in the episode notes. Welcome back to the Beyond Rockets podcast. Today I have the opportunity to sit down with Joseph Pelfrey, the director of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center here in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Clark. It's great to be with you in the podcast.
Yeah, so I'm excited. You've had a pretty incredible career with NASA, kind of cultivating up to this past February, where you got the director position here. Talk a little bit about your journey to get here to Huntsville. You've been here in Huntsville for a while at Marshall, but I think you were originally from South Carolina, but then pursued aerospace engineering at Auburn University. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. January 28th, 1986. I was in a cold lunchroom with my classmates sitting around a color TV watching the launch of Space Shuttle Challenger. And up to that point, I had recorded or watched every shuttle launch that had been televised. Mm-hmm. And I would study them. I would make notes. And that day turned into tragedy for our nation, for our space program, as we had that accident. And it really just hit me hard. And it was at that point that I knew that I wanted to do something in the space program. Mm-hmm. I knew I wanted to be a part of continuing that legacy of exploration that those 7 crew members didn't get to finish their mission. And so that kind of drove me from that point. And small town South Carolina, a little town called Terrell, provided me a great foundation, great values. But it was a textile town. There wasn't a lot to offer for somebody who wanted to be an astronaut and a pilot and an engineer, right? And so I had the opportunity to go away to a specialized school in South Carolina called the South Carolina Government School for Science and Math. Left home when I was 16 and moved into a college campus and finished my last 2 years, advanced high school, and then got selected to go to Auburn to major in aerospace engineering. And so it really set me on a path that I probably could never have imagined at this point, to study aerospace there and then ready to start a career here in Huntsville. The Huntsville market was very strong, and there was a lot of need for engineers, and there was a lot of cool stuff going on here in Huntsville. And I had a family member who had worked at NASA here for many, many years. And so I had a little connection to Huntsville. I came to space camp as a kid. It's the first time I'd ever been to Huntsville. And so I was always enamored with space and flight and knew I wanted to be a part of it. But I don't think I ever thought that I would ever be the director and sit here with such an incredible team. I've had the opportunity to work a lot of different programs at the agency and serve in different roles. I was first an industry contractor here on site, and then had the opportunity to move over to the NASA side on the government side, and really just a tremendous career of working different programs. The International Space Station program was where I started, flying science experiments to the space station. I've flown over 30 different experiments that have operated on ISS. Some are still there operating today. And just a tremendous program that Marshall has had a chance to really be a major part for the whole life of ISS, as we have led all of the science operations activities on ISS for 23 plus years now at our control center here on site. And so the ISS is just a tremendous laboratory, and it's really a great tool for us to develop the technologies and things we need to be able to explore even further. And so for me to be able to start my career on that had really a huge impact on my path and the things I learned on how to build flight hardware, how to test flight hardware, and then certify it to be operated by humans, and then actually see it get operated on ISS. That entire life cycle of project, there's a lot of people don't get to see.
Yeah.
And a lot of things people work on, they don't ever get to fruition, or they don't end up flying. And so for me to be able to fly that much hardware is pretty special.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's in like, you worked your way through a variety of different roles here at Marshall, and obviously aerospace is kind of that initial passion that drove you to, even come work for NASA. But as your career's developed, I think I read something that systems engineering has also been a big part of your role, and kind of as your career path is in this trajectory that's brought you to become the director. I would assume that systems engineering kind of background and mindset has really played a pivotal role in the work you even do today.
Absolutely, and I majored in aerospace at Auburn. When I graduated, there weren't a lot of jobs in pure aerospace disciplines, and so systems engineering was something that I hadn't studied a lot about, but it was where a lot of the jobs and careers needs were, because it was a growing discipline at that time that across the government, across industry. The ideas of being able to take multiple engineering disciplines and put them together to an integrated system to accomplish something, was really just a budding kind of discipline in the engineering field. And so working on system engineering within the International Space Station program, that integration of hardware, the design, development, test operations, that entire flow really gave me a lot of great background that I was able to take and then start applying in different ways. I worked on the Ares program, which was a previous rocket program, and under the Constellation program, and moved from doing science experiments to working on rockets, and which is what Marshall is known for its many years. Great experience there, and learning, working on a very large program, very complicated program, and that's where the system engineering really experience and expertise came in, and how you ensure all these various complicated systems and subsystems are going to come together to result in what everybody sees on the launch pad, which is a rocket that takes off and flies to space, right? There's so much that goes into that. And so that experience was really tremendous in helping me now, where as we are a human spaceflight center, I'm a part of certifying every human spaceflight mission that we do.
Wow.
And so I rely on my experience and my team's experience to make sure that the systems that we're putting our astronauts on are safe and reliable and going to be able to accomplish the mission.
Yeah, and so I think I saw a report that was out that kind of showcases the different all the different states and all the different presence that NASA has. And it was interesting to see, because a lot of, at least as far as the revenue brought by the state or the amount of employees in that state supporting NASA, Alabama ranks pretty high in most of those categories, top 5 in a lot of them. For those that maybe are Huntsville natives or have been in Huntsville for a long time, I think there's some sort of might be a misconception about what is really being done out here. How has over your time in your career being here at Marshall, how has the directive of what is needing to be accomplished and the work that's being done here changed, and has it changed?
Yeah, so Marshall has traditionally been a propulsion and launch vehicle center. That's what we're most known for. Now, Huntsville was called the Rocket City for a reason. This going all the way back to the Apollo days and the development of the Saturn rockets, and eventually the Saturn V that were sent humans to the moon for the first time. And that's where we really built a lot of our expertise. But what I really love about this job is I get to see all the other things that we do it at the center. Marshall has one of the most diverse portfolios in the agency in terms of the different types of missions we support, from pure science applications and science missions and fundamental research to technology development to mission operations and building rockets.
Wow.
And so there is so much more to what Marshall does than what a lot of people understand, in a lot around human spaceflight, but not just building rockets to fly humans, but how do we take care of them once they're in space, building the habitats that they may use in space or on the surface, the environmental control and life support systems to provide water, to provide air, to scrub off CO2. We developed those systems and have been testing them on the ISS for many, many years now. The science missions that we're doing to discover what particle energy is being created through black holes. That's being done by our scientists here at Marshall. Understanding the data that we receive back from the various weather satellites we have and turning that into what you see on the Weather Channel for hurricane forecast, for example. That is done through data and analysis by our Earth scientists here at Marshall in a partnership with NOAA and the National Weather Service. So understanding that our capabilities reach so far beyond just building rockets, I think, is what a lot of people in this area may not realize, because the rockets are so visible in what you see and hear every day, and especially here in this town. But it's the capabilities that we have extend far beyond that.
Yeah, and I read, I heard in an interview that you've done that you talked about the different generations that NASA has kind of experienced. Now we're in the kind of the Artemis generation, but we've had the Apollo generation and a bunch of others kind of leading and creating this framework for what we see today. Talk a little bit about some of those previous generations and kind of how the directive of what NASA's looking for as we're approaching Marshall's 65th anniversary is maybe changed, or is kind of how
Sure.
maybe some of those previous generations have kind of really built what it is that y'all are doing today.
We definitely stand on the shoulders of giants in terms of the Apollo generation and the original group that came to Huntsville to really form what Marshall Spaceflight was then and what it's become today. The Apollo generation, putting a man on the moon for the first time, just a tremendous milestone that this community had a major role in doing. And that shifted into the space shuttle generation. I grew up as a shuttle kid, and so I mentioned just being able to study those launches and see those launches, and we flew 135 shuttle missions, and Marshall was responsible for all the propulsion on those systems for every flight. Just a tremendous legacy of flying spacecraft to space, and then that led to building the International Space Station with using the shuttle. And the difference that you saw there is that we brought in international partners. You know, there's 16 nations that were involved in the International Space Station, and it became a truly global endeavor to build one of the most complex machines ever built. And now we have the Artemis generation. And like the space station, we are doing it with our partners. We have the Artemis Accords, which is a set of guidelines and rules and behaviors that we want to accomplish and partner together for exploration of the moon and eventually Mars. And we just had our 48th country sign the Artemis Accords, which signals that international collaboration to really go out and explore for the benefit of all humanity. And that is that's what you see a little bit different than the Apollo generation, which we were in a space race. We were in a space race with the Soviet Union at the time, and so there wasn't a lot of international collaboration, for example. What has sustained through each of those generations and each of those major moments of NASA's history is they've all been enabled through strategic partnerships. We've always had commercial partners. We've always had academic partners. And so that is even more of a focus now as we see what NASA has done to enable the commercial space industry. You see in successes with SpaceX and with Blue Origin, with Virgin Galactic, with Rocket Lab, all companies that we work with now either work side by side, we help them, and then we hire them to help us with our space endeavors, and we partner with them. And so as we look at the Artemis generation where we are now, to return humans to the moon for the first time in 50 years, to eventually send humans to Mars, we're going to do it as an international coalition, and we're going to do it with new operating models with new commercial partners that have come into play, and with continued need and support from our academic community to provide the STEM graduates that we need to come take our jobs, those that are focused on science and the technology, engineering, and business professionals to help us do our missions.
Yeah, and so you mentioned a little bit earlier just of the, you stand on the shoulders of the people and the legacy that NASA has and the legacy that even Huntsville has in the space program. The building where even von Braun had his office was recently demolished and kind of torn down, but there is plans to kind of rebuild that and kind of create a new facility here for NASA's Marshall Space Flight Program. Talk a little bit about what that facility is going to be able to accomplish and what it will kind of what its primary goal will be.
Yeah, we had, unfortunately, as you mentioned, we had to tear down our headquarters building during COVID due to some issues that we found with the structure, and it turned out it wasn't safe for our employees once we determined the issues, and so it was the right decision, a hard decision, but the right decision to take it down. But we really want to focus on the legacy of the people at this center that have contributed and are contributing to the nation's goals in space exploration, and so. We're excited to be able to break ground on our new facility. It'll be a place of collaboration for our workforce. It'll be an opportunity to have our training facilities back, a large auditorium and meeting space, a lot of collaboration space, and then office space as well to support the teams we have on site. And so we're hoping to break ground on that next year. We're working through the budget and schedule and construction plans. This area is growing so rapidly. Yeah. Everybody sees how expensive things have gotten on construction, but also how busy the construction teams are. And so we're hoping to break ground next year, and we're excited to really change the landscape of Marshall Space Flight Center as we look to the future. We have a lot of great new ideas and opportunities with our facilities to kind of revamp what we need for the future. And our new headquarters building will really just set us up for many, many years to go into the future of supporting our workforce, being able to train and develop our workforce, but also collaborate for the new missions that we have coming.
This episode is sponsored by Yellowhammer Brewing. Yellowhammer is a local craft brewery serving Huntsville for the past 14 years. They are known for their premium craft beers like their T-Minus and Rebellion, but what you might not know is they also offer spirits, wine, seltzers, and non-alcoholic drinks. Next time you stop by their location, try one of their seasonal cocktails made with the Gemini Bourbon or the Yellowhammer Vodka. Or try this year's big hit, Pineapple Punch Seltzer. You can find out more information about Yellowhammer Brewery by visiting their website, yellowhammerbrewery.com, or visiting their tap room located at Campus 805. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors that help make this podcast possible. Now back to the episode. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to think, because I mean, we're sitting in a fairly new building for y'all. I mean, it's 2 years old. I think it opened right in the midst of COVID, so it kind of sat empty a little bit as we went through that journey. But beautiful building, beautiful space. But y'all have over 120 different locations throughout the arsenal that the Marshall kind of uses. How important is that new facility kind of to be able to house and kind of bring these people that maybe are a little bit spread out from the hub that we're in right now to a space, maybe an auditorium or event space, to kind of create that collaboration that is needed to further the presence here at Marshall?
Building strong teams is something that NASA has really been good at for many, many years. And NASA has been the number one place to work in federal government for 12 years in a row. And I believe that's because of the way that we put emphasis on developing our employees and developing strong teams. And a lot of folks say that space exploration is a team sport, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to do it as an individual. And so having the right facilities and infrastructure we need to be able to support our workforce to do those missions is a priority for us and for the agency. We've struggled with that for a while as the agency in terms of being able to invest in ourselves and invest in the infrastructure. As our mission content is continuing to grow, there's been that growing need and desire and requirement to have the new facilities we need to do the new missions. And so this is a great opportunity to invest not only in our workforce, but in what we're able to do as a center to support the agency's mission. So it's going to be a great highlight for the center and an opportunity to allow our workforce to have the things they need to continue their advancement for the future.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. I've from someone that's been here at Marshall for a 20-year career and kind of seeing Huntsville grow with it. That collaboration nature that you were talking a little bit about earlier, with some of these companies that now actually have presence here in Huntsville. I feel like that even strengthens what you're able to accomplish in the research being done here at Marshall, and it's incredible just to think about how as these, and I would assume too, you have to deal with new technologies that are being adopted and how you can integrate them into the work you do with AI or a variety of different things. So it's a constant evolution of figuring out what new technologies exist to serve the problems maybe you already have or problems you're going to have.
Absolutely, and that's where it's great to have these strategic partnerships to go accomplish, because these missions are so hard and so complicated. There's so many different moving parts to returning humans to the moon or going to Mars. Having those partners that can bring their expertise and their ideas to the table, and maybe things that we hadn't thought about, right? And so working together with our partners is really going to make it stronger and be able to achieve those goals even faster. And again, partnerships have always been a part of what we've done at NASA and our missions here. But it's growing in terms of the way we work with partners and the way that we do space exploration. A great example is our human landing system, the next landers that are going to return humans to the moon. Marshall manages that program for the agency here. And we're working with both SpaceX and Blue Origin to build and design 2 different landers that we will use for those landing missions to the moon. NASA will not take ownership of that hardware. So we will effectively be buying a ride for our astronauts from lunar orbit down to the surface and back. And that's a different operating model than what we had done in the past, where typically we would hire a contractor to build something, deliver it to NASA, we would take ownership, and then we would own and operate it from there on out. And so this is a different way of doing business, and we believe it's another model that we can demonstrate and how adaptive our workforce is to changing with the changing landscape of this space enterprise. So we have great relationships with those partners and making great progress on their designs for supporting the missions that we have coming up for the Artemis campaign that we're in right now.
Yeah, and so I mean, I feel like the job you have and just kind of managing you have 7,000 employees here at Marshall that are kind of underneath your leadership. How, as you've been in this role as director here for 10 months or so, what is maybe something that you were maybe not as most prepared for as far as the role you have today, and maybe some areas that you were well prepared for and that you felt as though like, hey, these are some strong either attributes or these are strong skills of mine in leading this team?
So one thing I knew very clearly coming in is that we had a tremendous team. We've got a very skilled, talented team and a very skilled and talented leadership team, all right? And none of this happens just by me. We have a tremendous leadership team that I get to work with every day with the employees to make sure that we accomplish what the agencies ask us to do in accomplishing the goals of the nation in space exploration. So that part I was not concerned about because I've seen and been a part of it and got to work alongside these people for many years that are just tremendous at coming up with innovative ideas on how to go solve hard problems to be able to do space exploration and do science and do technology development. What I have learned in the job is even the breadth of the things that we do at the center that I didn't know about or that I had not worked in, areas that I just had not had a chance to really be a part of coming up through my career. And so we try to make a point every month. We go on what I call a field trip, and we go out to a different place on the center to just talk to employees and visit a lab and see what's going on. And every time I learn something new that I didn't realize we were doing, or I meet somebody new, a new engineer, a new business professional that we've hired. And that's what's fun about the job, is being able to just see our team and our employees, your neighbors, your colleagues, your family members that are coming out here every day to accomplish some really awesome things. And so, and to see the work and the hardware and the testing that's going on, the analysis we're doing, that's something that I've enjoyed, is just learning even more about what our center does. And I've worked in a lot of areas. I spent time in engineering. I spent time in different program and project offices. I spent time in, different programs through my career, but there's still so much more that I didn't even realize we were doing. And so that's been a fun part of the job here, and we're working alongside that team each day.
Yeah, and it's incredible because, just envisioning just how much Marshall has grown in its presence and its support over its 65 years. As we're getting, this episode's kind of airing, we're getting leading up into the 65th anniversary in 2025. Talk a little bit about that 65th anniversary and maybe some ways in which Marshall is looking to engage with and interact with the community here in Huntsville.
It's going to be an exciting year, celebrating 65 years in this community, being a part of the agency and what the nation was trying to do and is doing in space exploration is just going to be an awesome time to celebrate. And our 65th birthday next year is going to be about just that, is celebrating our legacy, what this center and this community have contributed to space exploration and scientific discovery, but also looking to the future. And so each month we're going to have a different theme. We're going to focus on a different part of our portfolio that we do at the center, partly to really talk about that not only have we had tremendous innovations we've contributed in rocket propulsion and launch vehicles, but the other areas that we've contributed so much more to in terms of science and technology development and discovery. And so taking time to celebrate that legacy, but also how we're going to apply it for the future missions that we're trying to do to return humans to the moon, to go on to Mars, to continue to study our universe and study Spaceship Earth and what's going on here. And so we have events planned throughout the year. We're going to have some community engagement events. This past year we had NASA in the Park this year, which is something we had brought back after a few years of a hiatus. And we had over 14,000 people come within 4 hours downtown Huntsville, Big Spring Park, where we got to bring all of our technologies and displays and engagements out to really tell the community and show them what we do out here behind the gate every day, and talk about the missions we have in the future, and hopefully inspire the next generation of workforce that we need to come take our jobs. And so we're going to try to repeat that next year on a grander scale, spend the whole year talking about what we do and what we have done and celebrate that, and then focus on the future. We're going to have communications and engagements. We're going to have pop-up stands around the city we're talking about, and selfie stations, and hopefully we're planning a big birthday bash community engagement in the summer. Our official birthday is on July 1st, so we're looking around that time frame, and we'll have more information coming out soon to how we can get the community involved in helping us celebrate and being a part of what we're doing as a center.
Yeah, and it's definitely hard to project what the next 65 years look like. That's not something that I think any of us can do adequately. But thinking about just this last 20 years that you've had, seeing Marshall grow, seeing the space exploration grow, seeing NASA grow, what do you see that future looking like maybe in the next 5 to 10 years for not only NASA as a whole, but what is being done here at Marshall?
So we have a lot in the planning right now. I just returned from Kennedy Space Center for a 3-day review where we were laying out and reviewing all the different elements of our architecture that are going to return us to the moon and establish a sustained presence on the moon. But then also, what are we doing to prepare for that trip to Mars? So for NASA to return to the moon sustainably is about learning what it means to live and work on another planet, on another celestial body. And that information is going to help us be able to build and design and then ultimately operate on the surface of the Mars when we want to send humans there. And so laying out that and seeing that plan and those pieces come together is pretty exciting to think about. We've talked a long time in our history about going to Mars, and now we're putting the piece parts together to be able to do that. But we need to go to the moon first, because there's still things that we need to learn on how to protect our crew and to do science for longer periods of time, 30 to 60 days at a time on the surface of the moon, and also develop the technologies that we need that are going to get us to Mars. And that's one of the areas where I believe Marshall's expertise is really going to play. We're currently working on a project now with our partnership with DARPA to develop the first nuclear thermal propulsion engine, which we believe is the next generation of propulsion technology that we need to send astronauts to the Mars. It cuts down the trip time to Mars, which makes it healthy and more safer for our astronauts, but also allows us to make that trip much faster, get them there, do science, and then return them safely. And so Marshall's currently leading the development with DARPA and one of our industry partners on that next generation of a propulsion system for in-space transport. And that's one of the key things that we're going to be doing over the next number of years. Once we get the crew to orbit, we got to give them a place to live. And so we are working on the habitation systems that the crew will use both for in-space transport and on the surface of the moon and eventually surface of Mars. We just completed the first mission concept review with the Italian Space Agency, international partners on developing what will be the first habitat on the surface of the moon. And so we're leading that effort for the agency in a great partnership with the Italians and making great progress there in hopes of launching that to the surface of the moon around the 2030 timeframe. And so we have a bright future of continuing our legacy of human spaceflight, hardware development, large system development, but we also have some amazing scientific discoveries that we're doing with some of the instruments that we have on orbit, as well as the technologies that are going to enable all of these things. All of these missions are enabled by different technologies that we need, like advanced manufacturing, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, cryofluid management. How do we store propellants in orbit and not have them boil off and we lose them? And how do we 3D print landing pads and habitats on the surface of the moon using lunar regolith? That is a project that we're doing right now with an industry partner here at Marshall, where we're testing different mechanisms and excavator arms that will grab lunar soil and mix it with different mixtures to actually build a landing pad on the surface of the moon in situ right there before the rocket gets there, the lander gets there. And so those are some really exciting things that we're doing that are going to enable this future of exploration.
And with this future, and you talked a little bit about it earlier, and how some of the 65th anniversary community involvement is kind of encouraging and creating that spark that you had that kind of pushed you in your career. Thinking about the journey that you've had and kind of the career path and the areas at which led you to where you are now. If someone's listening and they themselves have that passion and have that desire to, I want to work for NASA one day, and I want to be a part of what's being done and what we've discussed in this conversation. What would be your recommendation on how they go about doing that?
Stay curious. My whole path was around being curious about what else I can do and what's next, and being willing to take the opportunity that was in front of me. And in most cases, it was not an opportunity I was looking for, and it wasn't one I had planned. But it was something that I was curious about, and I was willing to go give it a try and to work hard and to learn something new. And that's how my path evolved, is I was willing to say yes. I was willing to lean in and be uncomfortable with a new opportunity or a new challenge because it was going to give me an opportunity to learn something new. And so when I mentor folks, when I talk to students, stay curious, right? Keep open-minded to what you can go accomplish, and you will accomplish things you never could have dreamed of. And I'm a living example of that for sure.
Well, I appreciate you taking the last little bit and talking just about everything that's going on out here. I think as a Huntsville native, I think I go into what I do, and I go into conversations like this with genuine curiosity. It's a big part of the business I've created, and it's a big part of what allows conversations like this to happen. So I appreciate you taking the time, and I've learned so much about what's going on. I hope everyone else that's listening will tune into some of the 65th anniversary events that you're doing in the community, learn more about what's going on, and just ask questions, because I think that's what will allow the work being done out here just to be, exceed any expectations.
Yeah, thank you for helping tell our story, because it's important for us to continue to not only recognize the contributions of this community and our workforce, but also be able to tell our story on why we're doing this and why space exploration matters to the people outside the gate and the people that may not get to do it every day, because the impacts that we have go beyond the $8 billion economic impact. They go beyond the 35,000 jobs that we've impacted in Alabama. It goes to how we're trying to advance quality of life issues and understanding of our universe, and learning and building new technologies that have applications here on Earth. Every dollar we spend on space is spent here on Earth. And so we are making advancements that have and will continue to have impact on everyday life. And beyond that, we're inspiring the next generation. And that's what's really exciting with what we get to do. So thanks for helping us tell that story.
Yeah, and we'll have links to everything in the episode notes. So if you want to find out more information about what's being done at NASA, what's being done at Marshall here in Huntsville, you can visit those links in the notes. But thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Beyond Rockets. Don't forget you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, and on YouTube at Beyond Rockets. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Beyond Rockets to stay up to date with new episodes as they are released. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.